Okay, what's up, tribe? We are here with Chana Levitan, all the way from Jerusalem, Israel. And she has two wonderful books. I Only Want to Get Married Once. And the other one is That's Why I Married You. That's all caps. That's Why I Married You. We've had Chana over to J-Pulse to speak to our young professionals. And it was very well received. We're looking forward to having a nice schmooze about all of her findings on her research about married couples, what makes a successful marriage. And Chana is a marriage therapist, a author and speaker. She's traveling around the world. She has an upcoming tour as soon as the corona ends. And in the meantime, she's doing webinars across the globe. Let's get started. So tell us, what's your story? What motivated you to go in this direction and do all this wonderful research?
Well, I love people, and I really am dedicated to helping all of us to grow into our best self and to create the best relationships, the best marriage that we can. So that's what drives me. It certainly drives me on a personal level to really work on myself and work on my marriage of 31 years. And we're still going strong. And I just want to do what I can to help serve other people and help us all to reach our love potential.
That's great. What was like the research building up to the books that you've written?
Well, I worked with singles and dating coaching for about 20 years, and that led up to obviously doing, I did my master's in family counseling, and all of this together led to the first book, I Only Want to Get Married Once. And then all of that, another additional 10 years led to, That's Why I Married You, in which I researched couples all over the world who were in good marriages, difficult marriages. I researched couples in 8 different countries, surveyed hundreds of couples in the States.
Hundreds, wow.
And because the second book is really about personality differences, and I wanted to get to the bottom of really, why are we attracted to someone who's so different from ourselves? And of course, when we're dating, we're looking for similarities. And I always clarify, we're looking for similar values. And that is an absolute necessity. But even though we get those similar values, and of course, we're going to get similar personality traits connected to those values, when we get married, we start to realize, wow, we're really different. I didn't realize how different we are. And the truth is, those differences are amazing. They hold the potential for lasting connection and lasting attraction if we know how to use them.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So you're saying the differences oftentimes create a certain friction in the beginning, but with the right framework, they can actually be the catalyst to a successful marriage.
Yeah. The truth is, subconsciously, we're not aware of what it is that's creating that attraction. Afterwards, we look closely at what's happening. We seek to marry somebody who balances us out. And again, this is more in the subconscious. We seek to marry someone who is going to help us be a better team. Because, if you start a business and you're only able to hire one person and you want this business to take off and be awesome, are you going to hire someone who could do exactly what you could do? Or are you going to hire someone who can do things you don't like to do or you're not good at?
Interesting.
Right?
Interesting.
So therefore, we are very much subconsciously attracted to someone who's going to help us to grow and balance out and create a better team with us. So that does play into the initial attraction, and only after the marriage do we start to realize, oh wow, we are very different, and with the right lens and the right tools, we can really, really tap into those differences and create a phenomenal marriage.
That's really interesting. So you're saying opposites attract. And this is the science behind it, so to speak.
Yeah. And again, when people are single, I don't suggest looking for an opposite. It doesn't work. It's just we need to look for someone who's similar in terms of ideals and certain personality traits. It's just the opposites happen because if we were to meet somebody who's just like us, okay, let's say we met someone who's just like us. Not that there is such a thing, because even twins. Right? They grow up in the same womb. They're born at the same time, same family, the same everything, and they're still different. Okay? But let's say there was such a thing as someone who's exactly like us. We would not be attracted to them. wouldn't, right? We are attracted.
Unless the person's a real narcissist, maybe then.
Oh yeah, that's right. Nice. But it's interesting because the part of us that kicks and screams when we find those differences is it's the young part of us that it's sort of like we were 4 years old, 5 years old. Who was our best friend? Oh, we like the same color. We wear the same shirt. We like the same football cards. That's our best friend. Same, same, same. Because kids can't negotiate differences.
Hmm.
Mature love has a lot to do with how we negotiate those differences and how we allow ourselves to be so close to somebody who's so different from ourselves.
Interesting. That's really interesting. Especially, the Bali Musar discuss when a person, we all do it. We all see negative traits in others, whether it be our spouse, whether it be our children, whether it be our community members or beyond our immediate community. We all have, this susceptibility to look at the negative side of people. But when it really irks us, when it's something that really, gets us heated and angry, so to speak, usually there's something else going on internally in ourselves. They're the trigger to discovering our own inner world in a certain way. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I love that you said that, because who we marry really is our mirror, and they're going to show us what's wonderful, and they're going to also show us where we still need to grow. Okay, the word for marriage in Hebrew is nisu'im, which means to grow. Nasa, to lift up, to grow. Marriage is a human growing machine, right? It's amazing if we have the right perspective. And now that we're finding ourselves in quarantine and we are spending so much time together, this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to really, really push through the things that are getting in our way, the closeness that we want to accomplish, that we want to create. It's an ability to see ourselves and to say, okay, what do I need to work on in order to be a better spouse? Okay, because we can really, really get stuck on what they're doing wrong. And we can all come up with a list of things that our spouse is doing wrong, for sure. The question is, what are we doing that, right? If we shift the vision onto what they're doing, we are miserable. Okay, so when we shift the vision back to ourselves, and this really works because it takes one person to turn a marriage around, and this is what's so amazing about the power of one. If we would just focus on what we need to work on and look at our spouse as our mirror, okay, instead of, oh, look what he's doing wrong, what she's doing wrong. But hey, how can I be better? And exactly as you said, it's those things that irk us the most that are teaching us something about ourselves, right?
You're saying that it's one person. Just expand on that idea. One person for successful marriage. I always start with two to tango, right? Two people need to work on it together. What do you mean one person? Before we go down that road of where you're going, just first explain that idea that it takes one person. I don't understand.
Okay, great question. People think that change in marriage happens in unison. It's like, but it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen like 1, 2, 3, change. It doesn't happen that way. Change in marriage happens unilaterally when one person says, you know what, I've got to really work on this. Okay, yes, my spouse is acting like an idiot right now, but so am I. And let me work on my part in this. And when we do that, right, when we take this aspect of ourselves that we really, really need to work on and we get it better and better, and we get it right, and we stay focused on that, the more we have it together, the more the other person also has to start to change, because marriage is a system. It's a dance, right? When we get our dance steps right, the other person's going to come along. Okay. Again, I would say there's an exception just here that, if someone is married to someone who is abusive, who is an addict, and they're not showing up in the relationship, so the power of one is very limited. Mm-hmm. Okay. But for the regular situation in which we're all imperfect, we're all perfectly imperfect, and we're all dealing with our stuff, and we're dealing with our spouse's stuff. So the power of one is so amazing, and I've seen this just over the last 25 years plus working with couples. In my own marriage of 31 years, it's amazing when the power of one is just, we have to know about that.
So how does that work, like mechanically? A couple's getting in a little bit of a tiff, or there's that, I don't know, for lack of a better example, the cap on the toothpaste or something, I want it on, stop leaving it, whatever it is, this was some of my mentors way back when used that example. Just to cover my wife there. It's not that she leaves the cap on. But there's all these examples where a person has these certain particularities that that those usually cause the friction. Now, when you say it takes one, sometimes there could be a little back and forth. Sometimes people can get heated. So mechanically, how does a person diffuse the argument before it becomes an argument? What are your thoughts on that?
It really comes back to, again, self-management. Okay, emotional regulation. Okay, we can't show up in a relationship if we're not dealing with ourselves. So if we're getting worked up, one of the best phrases I ever heard, someone coined this phrase, if we're getting worked up, we can just say, I'm so worked up right now, I'm not going to do justice to this conversation. Let me just go calm down, and then we're going to come back and then set a time to come back and have the conversation. Okay, so that we're not walking out, we're not ignoring, we're not stonewalling. Okay, it really, it comes down to us taking responsibility again for our part in this. Now, let's say we're having a miscommunication. Okay, if we're having a miscommunication, do we both as a team now have to go and watch a movie, an educational movie on how to communicate? No, it's enough for one of us to learn communication skills and to really, really work on using I language, right? Not I language, like I feel, or learning how to put a complaint into a positive sandwich, the sandwich, the positive compliment, and then the meat, and then the another positive statement. It's learning how to do those things. And sometimes people say to me, because I do a lot of workshops in communication, sometimes people say, oh, but this feels so fake. I learn all these tools, etc. And I always say, I love to tell the story of a couple who came into my office once, and they'd been through a lot, both in their personal journeys. Both had been through a lot of trauma, and he had big anger stuff that he was working on, and she was working on also some big stuff, and they were just they're doing great, and they're by far one of my favorite couples, just both heroes in their own right. And they're doing so well. And one day they came in and she's like, I'm so upset. Why? And she said, because I just wanted to know what the story was at the end of the month in terms of our finances. So I said it very nicely. I said, hey, what's going on with the finances this month? And he got so worked up. And to give him credit, he didn't explode. He was like doing this breathing exercises so that he could control his anger. And I said, what? I can't even bring up to tiptoe around this guy. And I said to her, I said, look, that money's a trigger for him. Like, his mother was always like, you're never going to make money. You're so irresponsible. That money's a trigger. So why don't you try the sandwich? She's like, okay, all right. Really care for our family. And right now the sandwich has to come with the and, not but. The but will just undo everything, right? End of the month, I just feel more just comfortable knowing that, just I love you, and let's talk about it. And she says, this feels so fake. And he's like this big tough guy, and he's like, well, maybe it felt fake to you, but to me, and he's got tears coming down his, to me it felt so real. He said, it was the first time I could ever really hear you asking something Because people think, oh, the sandwich, the island, like, it's just, it's not a formula that was just devised because people are annoying and they say, let's come up with formulas. It's just understanding human nature that when someone says, you're irresponsible, or just tell me what's going on at the end of the month, whatever, we get defensive,
Right.
especially in a marriage where we're so close and we're so sensitive to each other.
That's a really powerful story. During the workshop, you spoke about the limbic system. It's a
Yeah.
really powerful exercise that you brought us through as a group, where we did that incredible exercise. Maybe you can discuss a little bit, not about the exercise so much, but just what is the limbic system and what's the interplay there between the sandwich?
Sure. Great question. When I talk about managing ourselves or emotional regulation, our brain has these two parts, so to speak. We have the neocortex, the higher functioning brain, which is where our higher thinking, creative thinking, problem solutions, all of that effective communication is all really stemming from there. We have another part of our brain, which is in the lower part, which is called the limbic system, which is the amygdala, that little amygdala in the back of the brain where fight or flight is stored. Our traumas are stored there. A pituitary gland, like the limbic system is there for a reason. Okay, really, God created the limbic system to help us in emergencies, in extreme emergencies where we need an action, just super action moment where a kid is running into the street. I'm like, whoa, jump in and get the kid out of the street. Right? That's a surge of adrenaline, of energy, of strength. That's why we have a limbic system, and it serves us for those emergencies, right? If a tiger's coming at us, right, we like to sit and think, what should I do now, right? That's the neocortex is going to get in the way. So the limbic system it's a shortcut and just bang, action, right? Now, that's great if there's imminent danger. But when we are in a basic stress situation where let's say our partner or spouse is triggering us, or it's a basic stress situation like now we're in this corona thing where we have prolonged stress. So if we stay in the limbic system, we're going to pay a high price because we can't access our higher thinking. We're going to fight, we're going to get defensive. So for this, we need tools to calm ourselves down. And this is what I mean by self-management, by emotional regulation. We all need a bag of tools to really center ourselves, right? So we can use, let's say, breathing techniques that EMTs or firefighters use just to calm themselves down when they're in a real crisis. Okay, there's tapping, EFT tapping techniques, there's meditation, guided meditation techniques, prayer, so many different ways, exercise, so many different ways that we can center ourselves. And each one of us needs to really find a few of those ways because it's really not our fault that our limbic system gets triggered. It just, that's human nature. And each one of us has different things that will trigger us. What works for one person is not going to work for the next, right? So each one of us has to find our own collection of tools to help us to calm ourselves down. Okay, so that's also how we avoid getting in fights. Right? Things are started getting heated up, right? And we can sometimes watch our partner getting heated up, and they might say something really just out of anger, and if we are able to hold on to ourselves, we can just say, hey, I'm going to try not to take that personally because I love you and I want to talk this out. Okay, how can we talk this out and both be present?
When the limbic system's kicking in, it's fight or flight. It's not be empathetic and kind and warm, fuzzy.
Right.
So I thought you were going to say that the sandwich would be a good habit to get into, because when your limbic system is hectic, the kids are screaming and that becomes all contagious and everyone's just going cuckoo, or if it's just the two people who are working on not fighting, then the limbic system kicks in, the adrenaline's pumping, habit, compliment, sandwich, then the criticism. But what you're saying is a little different than that. You're saying, no. When the limbic system kicks in, so then it's time to actually discuss, okay, we're feeling the limbic system, so to speak. We're feeling this stress. We need to calm down a little bit. The sandwich isn't going to work in that case.
Well, it depends. I mean, the sandwich is a way to say something when we're activated, the other person's activated, or just one of us, and that could be something we use at that moment. Okay. What I gave you an example of is where, let's say, we're not activated, the other person is, and we're getting attacked. All right. The sandwich is if we have a request to make. Right? But if our partner is attacking us, right? That's not so we have to calm things down in order to do the sandwich, right? So we need to center ourselves, and then we could just see, wow, he or she is in their limbic system, and we don't have to go there, right? You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to, right?
Mhm.
So we also don't want to like be like holier than that, like, oh, we got together and you're falling apart. It's not that. It's just, hey, I also go here to this place. I'm not there right now, but like I love you, and can we talk? We might need to take a break, right? But I'm just saying, the more that we learn how to center ourselves, the more that we don't have to get pulled into another person's limbic system when they're stuck there. The more that we can calm ourselves down when we're stuck there. Okay, so it's a tremendous. I mean, it's all self-mastery, and that's why, again, marriage is nisu'im. It's to lift up, to grow. Marriage, that 24/7 relationship of marriage, is going to teach us how to communicate, how to center ourselves, how to see the positive in someone when we keep their negatives, because we all have our negatives, and we want our spouse to keep looking at our positives. Okay, so when we can get it together in our marriage, then every other relationship will be positively affected, right? Because we're developing those skills that are incredible people skills. So it's just the microcosm. The marriage is the microcosm, and then we can take all of those skills out into the macrocosm. And it's interesting. I'm fascinated by the fact that married men are paid. They have their salaries are 12% higher than single men. And so there's all sorts of ideas about why that might be the case. And I think one of the reasons is because marriage really sharpens our technique, our emotions, how we deal with ourselves, our communication skills, and it's just going to help, everything else that we do.
But it could also be that the average age is over 30 or whatever, and so therefore they're more along in their career. But
I mean, I think there's a lot of things. There's a lot. Probably we could come up with 5 or 6,
right.
things that add to this. But I do think that is one.
It's interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. The it's a fascinating thing. It really does take one person to make a successful marriage. In light of what the background and the framework which you just laid out for us very nicely, it really does take one person to sort of initiate that that cessation of adrenaline and the increase in communication and whatnot. Communication is so important to a healthy marriage.
There's a book called "It Takes One to Tango."
Okay.
I think is a really good depiction of this whole thing. That
We recommend that. A lot of this material is.
I highly recommend that. Yes. Both the author and I were both trained by the same trainer of marriage therapists.
Let me ask you, there are a lot of couples with healthy relationships. What about in the case of like quarantine, everyone's locked down? You have couples with otherwise healthy relationships. The stresses are a little bit high anyways with Corona floating around, the universe. And what would you recommend to couples that have the time now? Their distractions are a lot less. They have the time to sit down and really take their game to the next level. What are your thoughts? What are your recommendations for those couples?
First of all, again, this is all the more so the time to do some sort of meditation every single day. We have to work it into our day. I mean, one of the things I'm loving about the Corona time right now is meditation and prayer, and just really focusing. Okay, now I understand if people have a lot of kids running around, but you could even do the meditation while the kids are there, under your breath. At some point, the kids go to sleep. At that point, doing even 5-10 minutes of centering is so important just to calm ourselves down. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I have wonderful questions, and anyone who wants the questions can just reach out to you. We'll start with 10 or 15 questions, and I can go up to 100. So that'll get us through quarantine. Okay. Having the time, even though we're spending all day together, we need to have 10 to 20 minutes of one-on-one. How are you? How was your day? And it's not about the deep emotional discussions for every couple, really. It's just, how are you? Checking in. How was your day? Supporting the other person.
I always tell my students, you have to spend at least 2 hours at home. If you're working, learning, this, that, and the other thing, make sure you're home for at least 2 hours every day. I think this is different than that.
Within the 2 hours, 10 to 20 minutes of real, just one-on-one time where you're just checking in and connecting. Yes. And I want to suggest a third thing for everyone in quarantine to really, really make the best of this time, which is to create a gratitude practice. Now, for those of you who do a gratitude practice, which includes having a gratitude journal, writing down 5 things you're grateful for every day. For married folks, I'm suggesting to do that, 5 things you're grateful for, but 3 of them should be about your spouse. And to make sure to express the appreciation, because there's a lot of research that shows that really proves that one of the best ways to benefit a marriage is regular gratitude. I mean, it's been proven to up and improve relationships. So 3 every single day, 3 things we appreciate about our spouse, and then to really try to express that as well. Okay, but even if we're not saying all 3 of them, write them down and be looking on the lookout for the appreciation, for the gratitude. It just puts us in a better place, and it helps us not to focus on all the things that annoy us, which we always, again, can find because we're perfectly imperfect. Right? And when we're spending so much time together, it just becomes a little bit more obvious, those imperfections. But just like we want to be looked at in our positive, we want our imperfections to be glossed over. We want to do that for our partner as well.
Incredible. I mean, you've really touched upon a lot of different incredible points here today. The first one was working on ourselves, that it's the concept of seeing the flaws in others, seeing the negative in others, and how we can work on that. And then discussing the part about the limbic system and diffusing the fights before they happen, that it really takes one to tango. And this idea and the sandwich, what an incredible tool, the positivity sandwich, not to use but rather use and. Very nice. And also the concept to make the time, 10 to 15 minutes a day, just the 2 of you. And there's all sorts of questions, trigger questions to bring out really important conversations and deepen the relationship. It's an incredible thing, just in general, that marriage, a lot of people look at it as, at least in the demographic that I work with, these young professionals in their 20s and 30s, they look at this like commitment where they're totally, it's the last thing they want to do. Millennials, non-committal. But what you're saying is a really inspiring and refreshing idea, that perhaps the framework needs to shift. People need to look at marriage in a different light, where it's not about the commitment, it's a commitment to themselves as well, where they're committing to grow and better themselves as a person, in that they'll be more successful, more effective, communicating in the world, existing in the world, helping others, being selfless, and enjoying that process. Wow. Thank you so much for making the time today. How do people get in touch with you?
So very easy on my website, Chana, Chana Levitan.com, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I have a YouTube channel with some really, really important videos in which I interview couples in great marriages, and they share their challenges and how they push through to true love. So I created this video series called The Hidden Power of Marriage. And they're really short, exciting, professional videos that I had some people in Hollywood work on with me. So they're really good.
Well, we'll put that in the description on tribejournal.org, and then we'll also put that in the description on our YouTube channel at Tribe Journal on YouTube. Oh, that sounds wonderful. Thank you so much, Chana, for making the time. It's always enlightening and insightful meeting with you and visiting with you. We have a webinar coming up on this Wednesday. We look forward to seeing. This one's going to be actually not about married couples, but about singles getting the dating process right, getting to know themselves before they go down the road of seeking that soulmate. So we look forward to experiencing another webinar with you, which is different than the podcast. And I recommend anyone who has an opportunity to attend the webinar, whether it be for singles or couples. They're really action-packed. They're powerful exercises. And go check it out at ChanaLevitan.com. Thank you so much, and we look forward to being in touch again soon.
Okay, great. It's a pleasure.